In the cold silence of the hospital waiting room, two strangers, Ethan and Rose, found comfort in each other's fear. What began as small conversations soon grew into a bond strong enough to carry them through sleepless nights and whispered prayers. But just when hope seemed possible, a moment came that tested their hearts in ways they never imagined. Between love, loss, and the thin line of life and death, their story takes a turn that will leave you breathless. This is not just a love story, it's a journey through pain, hope, and the kind of bond born only in the darkest places. The hospital waiting room was cold and smelled of medicine. Ethan sat with his hands squeezed tight, praying his father would wake up from surgery. Across the room sat Rose, wiping her eyes with the edge of her scarf. Her mother was in another ward, fighting to stay alive. Their eyes met in that silence of fear, and somehow they understood each other. Ethan walked over slowly and asked if she was okay. Rose nodded, but her lips trembled. That small moment became the beginning of something they didn't expect. They began to talk every day in the waiting room. Sometimes they laughed about little things just to escape the heavy air. Other times they sat in silence, their hearts tied by the same pain. Nurses passed by, doctors rushed, machines beeped. Yet, in that storm of worry, Ethan and Rose found a tiny light. That light was the start of their love, though neither said it out loud yet. One night, Ethan found Rose crying alone in the hallway. Her mother's health had gone worse. He sat beside her and let her rest her head on his shoulder. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too," he replied. His father's condition was not good either. But in that fear they clung to each other. Every tear Rose shed seemed to fall inside Ethan's chest, and every time Ethan's voice shook, Rose felt it deep in her soul. Their love grew in whispers, in quiet prayers, in holding hands when no one was looking. But love in a hospital is never simple. Sometimes Rose's relatives told her not to get distracted. Sometimes Ethan's uncle said, "This is not the time for romance." But their hearts didn't listen. When the world was breaking around them, they needed each other more than air. Days turned into weeks. One morning, a doctor came out with a tired face. He told Ethan that his father's surgery had gone well and there was hope. Ethan ran to Rose, smiling through tears, and hugged her. But Rose did not smile. She had just been told that her mother's heart was too weak, and the doctors didn't know if she would make it through the night. Ethan held her close, whispering, "She will be fine." But in Rose's eyes, he saw something deeper than fear. It was a goodbye hiding in her tears. That night, Rose didn't sleep. She sat beside her mother's bed, singing softly, praying with all her strength. Ethan stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder, sharing her pain. Love made them strong, but death was near. The morning sun came, but not with joy. Rose's mother took her last breath while Rose's song was still on her lips. Rose screamed, holding her mother's hand, shaking as though she could bring her back. Ethan tried to hold her, but her sorrow was too heavy, and his arms felt too weak. Rose's world broke apart in that hospital room, and her heart cracked like glass. For days she walked like a shadow, barely speaking. Ethan stayed by her side, but he knew love could not heal every wound. Yet he refused to leave. He became her silent strength, her shelter in the storm. And slowly Rose began to breathe again. She smiled one evening, a small smile, but it was enough for Ethan. It meant she was still here, still alive. Months passed, and though grief still lived inside Rose, so did love. Ethan's father recovered, and Rose found comfort in knowing her mother's love still lived in her heart. Together, Ethan and Rose built something strong out of pain. Their love was born in a waiting room, tested by death and shaped by tears. They knew life would never be the same, but they also knew they could carry both love and loss together. And so, Ethan and Rose walked out of the hospital hand in hand, not healed, not free from sorrow, but bound forever by the fire they had walked through.